Hi everyone, this is Marie Blue Angel back with a romantic murder. And like I said on the last part 2, I have loaded back to right before I investigated the door that leads to outside. And now I don't want to look outside, so I'm just gonna go about my way. Because I think, you know, main character would probably investigate. But you know what? I'm not gonna investigate because I died last time. I mean, maybe I should have looked at it. But actually, no. I'm actually curious. Let me save. I open the door. We're looking outside. There are footprints that go out. Go back inside. It's too cold here to investigate further. I continue on my way. Okay, nothing happened. Dinner is as awkward as lunch, but to my surprise, both Blake and Mr. Thompson are also seated at the table. Mr. Thompson, how nice to see you're still with us. I am also here. Yes, Blake, you are. And you too, of course. We gave it a good go, but I'm afraid the weather has turned against us. It's snowing to beat the band out there. I have a good car, but it'd be tempting fate a bit too much to drive it out in the snow right now, wouldn't you say, Blake? As you say, sir. Very dangerous to be trapped overnight in the snow if you're not well prepared. At their obvious reference to one of Mr. Graves' little accidents, I casually scan the faces of the other people at the table. Nobody seems to notice. Well, I'm glad you stayed over. Does this mean we'll have a chance to talk tomorrow? Of course, dear girl. Nothing would please me more. And Blake too, of course. Perfectly correct as always, sir. Miss Chantal, it's nice to see you again. I went looking for you after lunch, but I couldn't find you. Yes, don't hide from us, honey. We girls have to stick together out here in this draughty old house. Why do I feel that what they're actually doing is asking me for my earlier whereabouts? You know, it's been ages since I've seen Crispian as well. At Celia's insinuation, Fia glares at me. Don't interrogate her, ladies. I'm sure he's around here somewhere. Crispian is in his room. Oh. The poor doll will sulk so. No stopping him, really. Mrs. Haverly looks at Fia with what surprisingly seems like approval. Yes. Dinner breaks up shortly after that, and everyone seems to be planning to retire to their rooms. Well, this day was surprisingly productive. I may not have gotten much out of the will reading, but learning that apparently nobody, including the dead man, expected very much out of Crispian is certainly something. And finding out there were at least 3 attempts on Mr. Graves' life gives me a lot more room to investigate. I take a moment to mourn not getting the chance to investigate his room, despite having standing in it at the time. Tomorrow I'm getting in there, even if I have to break the door down. With that thought running through my mind, I drift off to sleep. I was really that close to the end of day 1. Storms within and without. I look out the window and check the weather. It's now morning, but the snow is still falling, vanishing into the thick white blanket that has replaced the usual landscape. Including the drive, I notice. That may delay a few people's departures. Well, all the better for me. I'm not the only one at breakfast this morning, but the conversation hasn't improved much from when I was. Can you please pass the toast, please, doll? Never mind, honey. I wouldn't mind some toast myself. Could you, No, quite right. Too rich for my blood. The awkwardness is almost palpable, but it seems to be bothering Adrian more than the rest of us. He keeps looking over at his sister as if concerned. It's like he can't seem to bring himself to speak to her. Well, I certainly slept well last night. Nothing can top enjoying a nice snowy night by the fireplace, right? How about everyone else? Mr. Haverly, Crispian. Anyone? Blake apparently decides to take pity on him, though not so much as to actually respond to what he's saying. It's a shame that Mr. Thompson didn't feel up to breakfast this morning. It is quite excellent. Fantastic, isn't it? I don't eat like this at home, I'll tell you that. I couldn't afford to, for one thing. To tell you the truth, I don't either. Don't tell my cook at home, but Uncle Henry couldn't be beaten when it comes to finding the best. Oh yes, the old man was very, very picky about his staff.
Crispian.
Oh, I see. I can't say one word, can I? You're determined to think the worst of me. That tears it. I'm out of here. Fia, pack up your things. Now, see here. Forget it. I'm going back to London right now, and Fia's coming with me. You did drive me, you know. So, you can walk for all I care. He storms out of the room.
He doesn't mean that, I swear. Hold on a tick, I'll soon settle him down.
Storms within and without today, it seems. You're coming up with all the lines, Blake. Oh yes. Blow thou winter wind indeed. Well, yes. Always fall back on it, you see. We all continue eating and are just starting to wrap up when... I'm sorry to interrupt your meal, but I'm afraid there's been an unfortunate development. Is Celia not here? I say, Stevens, what is this? Dashed unorthodox.
That's what he's trying to tell us.
Oh, quite right, of course. Carry on, man. I wouldn't normally bring this before the company, but I know that Mr. Thompson and his party were planning to leave immediately after breakfast. What? Didn't Blake and Mr. Thompson say at dinner that they'd be available to speak with me today? I level a narrow glare at Blake. Yes, that's correct. Is there a problem? Yes, sir, I know the sow's a bit heavy, but I don't mind lending a hand with shoveling it, if that's what's needed. No, sir, Oh, Celia is here, okay.
James, no. They have people for that.
Maybe one of the maids?
Stevens.
Yes, madam. The problem is not the snow, I'm afraid, but the cars. Oh. To speak quite frankly, they don't seem to be working. At that, Crispian throws the doors to the dining room open and storms right back in again. What? What's this nonsense? I'm going, I tell you. There's no point making up lies at this point. Don't be an idiot, Crispian. I keep saying Caspian. What do you think Stevens heard you were leaving and punctured all the tires because he couldn't bear to part ways with you? Everyone turns to look at him. Just an example. Don't stare at me like that. Is it the tires, Stevens? No, sir. In each case, it appears that a small but vital part of the engine is missing. And not always just one. Strangely enough. Well, get another one in there, man. Call the garage and ask for Tom. He'll soon have it down. The butler seems hesitant to continue. The phones are also not working, sir. The place is falling apart.
Quiet, George.
The shock of not being able to leave seems to have taken a huge toll on Crispian. He's sweaty and pale. You're trying to trap me, all of you. Well, it's not gonna work, you hear? It's not gonna work. And there he goes again.
Oh, Crispian.
I'm going to check on Fia. She doesn't know about any of this, and I doubt very much her fiancé will bother to tell her. Yes, I should be going as well. I assume there's a plan to deal with these eventualities. If you could please let me know what that is, I will inform Mr. Thompson. Yes, sir. When the snow dies down, one of the servants will be sent into town to fetch assistance. Even if that ends up not being possible, we are expecting a delivery of food on Tuesday. Thank you. Blake follows Adrian out of the room. But will it be able to get here? The gentleman owns a very large lorry. Considering that it was once able to drive through a not insubstantial portion of our former hedge maze without noticing, I doubt the snow will present much of an obstacle. Oh, good. That's sorted then. Yes, except that someone has sabotaged both the phone lines and all the transportation away from here. But I seem to be the only one dwelling on those things at the table, with everyone else appearing relieved to have a plan in motion. I don't know whether to chalk up their sense of calm to my overly suspicious mind, or a possible suicidal quantity of upper-class reserve. Is anyone concerned about who exactly has sabotaged these things?
No.
She then goes back to her meal. I don't know what I was expecting. Yes, as you say, you wouldn't know this, my dear, living in the city as you do, but the country is rife with pranksters. And the biggest house is the biggest target, what have you?
The local boys at our estate once picked all the apples off the trees and replaced them with peaches.
That certainly takes a lot of time.
It was very confusing.
Right. A local boy, or boys, that are impervious to the cold. Very plausible. Just then I remember the patch of snow I saw by the door in the hall last night, and I can't help but wonder. Could there be someone else in the house? As soon as breakfast is over, I leave the room at the highest level of speed that politeness permits. Maybe Nick left to keep the people here because he thinks that one of them killed Mr. Graves? I don't know, we haven't seen Nick in a while. If there is someone in the house with malicious intentions, I have to find out as quickly as possible. There have been too many accidents in this house already. I search. Well, I can't go to the kitchen. The family wing? As I head off to search, a commotion from the east side of the house catches my attention. Several people are standing outside the closed door to the library, having what sounds like a spirited, if one-sided, argument.
Honey, come out of there already.
Ha! Not on your life. Have you seen what's going on in this place? Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, that's a convincing argument, you idiot.
Crispian? My darling cousin, could you please just open the door? Just for a minute? I only want to speak with you for a moment.
Put James back on.
Now listen here, you. Settle down, doll. Crispian, how about I just come in there? That'd be nice, huh? Romantic?
Sorry, I can't take that chance.
You think it's me? Me, Crispian? I've never so much as lifted the bonnet of a car in my life.
I'm staying in here until you figure out who's messing things up, and that's final. Crispian? I can't deal with him in this state. He's lost his mind.
Well, I'm staying. You hear me, honey? I'm here for you.
Celia moves closer to Fia and pats her arm.
Let me join you. Stevens will bring us some refreshments.
Her tone is comforting, but the gaze she levels in the closed library doors holds pure venom.
He can't stay in there forever.
Eep. Never thought I'd feel sorry for Crispian. I continue on. The family quarters of the house might be an unlikely place for an intruder to hide, but it's a very large house and a very small family. I walk silently down the hallway, trying each door as I go. Whenever a door opens, I efficiently search the interior before moving on. One of the cheerful things about looking for something person-sized is that it's unlikely to be stuffed up a chimney or sewn into the back of a chair. On the other hand, a pouch of jewels is also unlikely to respond to discovery with violence, so I guess overall it's a wash. At the end of the corridor, I'm faced with a certain locked door. The door of the dead man. I still want to take a proper look in there, but I suppose it's lower priority right now. Much as I don't like it. As I approach the last door and put my hand on the handle, it opens. Did you... Whoa! I say, what do you think you're doing up here? Letting yourself into a gentleman's room without so much as a knock. What kind of behavior is that? I was just about to have a bit of a lie down, what? Sleep off that breakfast like any sensible gentleman might. How should I be expected to know that a wild guest might take a fancy to take a tour of my house by the way of the bedrooms? By God, I might have had my trousers off. I think we're all glad that didn't happen. It takes 20 minutes, more nodding than the human neck was meant to bear, and an alphabetized retelling of the sins of young people today. But Mr. Haverly does eventually run out of steam. So what were you doing here, eh? I was attempting to search the house, sir, as part of the investigation that you hired me to do. I thought I'd see if I could find your father-in-law's room, and I didn't want to bother you with it, given this morning's unfortunate circumstances. Oh, well, why didn't you say so? Of course. I don't have the key to that room, more's the pity, but if you can track down the missus, I'm sure she'll be delighted. I'm off for my nap. Despite his genial smile, I notice that the door closes with a far bit of unnecessary force. I'm very glad to leave the family quarters. The guest wing is quiet and still. Fortunately, most of the doors are unlocked, so it's easy and quick to unobtrusively slip in and out of each guest's room for a quick sweep. I imagine in a house like this, guests are accustomed to staff coming in and out all the time to attend to things. I compare this to my own lodgings in London, which remain locked at all times. I may have only occasional heat and a minute-to-minute knowledge of my neighbors' lifetime practices, but I don't think that I'd trade our places all the same. Of all the guest rooms, only Mr. Thompson's door is locked, and when I tap slightly at the door, I hear his groggy voice saying something that might be a curse. I move on. When I reach the last set of doors at the end, I'm met with a small study that's been set aside for guest use. There's some faint movement coming from inside the room. It is extremely important for my future mental state that I not experience anything like the encounter with Mr. Haverly again. I knock politely, but my fingers slide inside the set of brass knuckles that ever reside in my pocket. Yes. Oh, Miss Chantal, nice to see you again. Well, I'll say this for him. He's not Mr. Haverly. But still, I wish I could say the same. Oh, have I offended you in some way? If so, I'm truly sorry. In other words, you don't even care enough to ask why, right? At dinner, you told me that Mr. Thompson and yourself would still be around today, and here I am. But you planned to leave directly after breakfast. Indeed we did. So either you lied to me, or... I suddenly stopped. Or... You knew that you wouldn't be able to leave. For some reason, I can't bring myself to voice the notion. Maybe it sounds too much like a threat. Or maybe I suddenly feel like it's not such a good idea to threaten Blake whilst I'm standing alone with him in a dark hall. As I said, always a pleasure, Miss Chantal. I regret that we can't speak further, but I have some work to get done whilst Mr. Thompson is resting. The door closes behind him and in my face. I mean, they could have changed their minds, but whatever. I don't know. This is the piece of evidence I have. Henry Graves died during the night from what appears to be natural causes. Despite this, the suspicious letter he left behind has led to me being hired to investigate the circumstances of his death. Okay, that's it. I like the little ding sound that we get. It scares me all the time. Why do people keep doing that? In a just world, this would be the moment of the old door's hinges give way, toppling the door right on him to inflict a sprained toe, or even worse. Alas, in this imperfect world, the door remains unfortunately stable, and so I continue on to my next target. The drawing room is empty, save for an ashtray in the corner of the room, and I take a closer look at the still smoldering cigarette inside. A foreign brand. Well, nothing more to do here. On to the study. The study is also completely empty, though that's unsurprising considering how Celia and Fia can still be heard from here as they continue to harangue Crispian through the door of the library. I make it about 1 foot into the staff quarters before Stevens arrives like a pantomime devil. Excuse me, miss. Guests are not permitted beyond this point. Sorry, Stevens. I know it's not the norm, but what with the recent sabotage incidents, I thought it best to undertake a quick search. When he merely lifts a brow, I momentarily hesitate, then add, I saw some snow by a door yesterday, and if someone had entered this house from the outside. As if someone had entered this house from the outside. Well, that is quite the worry. Still, miss, I really cannot countenance your entering the staff chambers on your search. 1 moment, please. Sophie, Nick. The two of you do a quick sweep of the staff quarters. Sophie, take the kitchen and the women's quarters. Nick, take the larder and the men's quarters. Hello, Nick. I like your blue hair. And Sophie. I like Sophie. Yes, sir. For a second, the valet makes eye contact with me, and I feel he is silently judging me. Sure, why not? But you're barking up the wrong tree, miss. Or not so silently. But what exactly does he mean by that? There we are, miss. If someone's hiding on this side of things, we'll soon have them out. And with that, I am forced to be content, as Stevens firmly ushers me away. With that, I'm officially out of places to search. Well, it's not as good as a search as a well-organized team might have done, but at least I know there's no group of thugs lying in wait. Not that it would have been particularly fortunate for me if I had discovered such a group. I peer outside the front windows where the snow is still softly falling. Of course, that just makes it more likely that the culprit is someone here. Thinking of the various personalities in the manor, it's hard to picture any of them shimmying up a ladder to cut the telephone wire, or neck deep in engine oil during a raging blizzard. But if there's one thing I know about people, it's that they can surprise you. A loud voice echoes through the halls. "Crispian, are you okay? Help! Somebody help! Stevens!" I take off running towards the cries. When I reach the outside of the library doors, Fia is plastered up against them as if she could force herself through the keyhole. "Honey, please talk to me. What was that noise?" From behind the door comes the sound of something like a racking cough. The longer it stretches on, the more Fia's face pales. "This is not good. Stevens!" "Yes, miss." He raises his hand and a group of male servants move towards the door. "Ready." Celia turns her head away as if she can't bear to watch. "The door is over 200 years old. Damn you, Crispian." "Go." "Go." The door crashes open like God's judgment, and we all pile inside. He's dead. There's a moment when we all just stare. And then... No! No! No, 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 no! No! Ah! Ah! I would scream louder, but, you know, it's quite night over here, and people might question that. Mia's screams sound like they're tearing her throat apart. "What? No, this... No. Crispian!" Staggering, Celia almost makes for a chair, but the horror of sitting next to Crispian is too much for her. She shakily leans against the shattered doorframe, tears running down her face. "I'm sorry. It's not true. It's not true. He's just having a laugh. He loves to joke, doesn't he?" She takes a step towards him, then another, before falling to her knees. "You have to blink, honey. You'll hurt your eyes." "Honey?" And then Stevens is there, pulling her gently to her feet and leading her and Celia away, leaving me to stand there alone with the body of a man I'd disliked, and the unmistakable scent of bitter almonds. Poison. End of the demo for now. Okay. Wow. Okay, so since I had chosen Blake for, like, the clerk for the route, I only get to see for the demo up to the first murder, but I believe that if I look for James first, I will get a little bit more of the demo. So, let me just go there. I'm not surprised that Crispian is the one that's dead, but I can think that, like, it makes sense then that Adrian could be the killer, because he cares about his sister and is looking out for her. I don't, also, did we see him? Did we see him earlier? Adrian? I don't know. I'm not sure how Nick... I mean, Nick is also a likely suspect, but, like, he hasn't really interacted with anyone from what I know, but, like, if Crispian wasn't well liked, then it kind of makes sense also for him. More likely than James. Oh, I don't... Yeah, James or Blake, in my opinion. But hold on. Okay, so I'm back here, and I can't see Nick. That was to Blake. I'm assuming I have to go to either... Wait, will I have to go here? I'm gonna go here. I feel like I can find James here. The library is surprisingly large for a house this size. Shelves stretching up so high you need ladders to reach half of them. Most of the books are heavy and leather-bound, just as one might expect in a place of such grandeur. I have a few suspiciously bright covers poking out from some of the lower shelves. They must be more recent additions. Based on what I've heard of Mr. Graves, I wouldn't be surprised if they're detective novels. But I'm startled out of my musings as fisticuffs break out on the other side of the library. Did you know? I swear to God, if you knew. Crispian, of course I didn't know. Not you. I know you didn't know anything. You hardly know what day of the week it is since you retired. Okay, James is here. I presume you mean me, then. No, I didn't know. Not that you'll believe me, of course. Huh, hardly. You would have never told me either, anyway. True, but in this case, Grandfather denied me the pleasure. Crispian's eyes narrow, but he subsides, apparently more convinced by James's sarcasm than his denial. And that bastard up there, smirking at me the whole time. He knew. I know he did. Mr. Thompson has worked for us for decades, Crispian. He drafted the will, of course he knew. Crispian huffs, seemingly conceding the point. I take the momentary lapse in hostilities and the loss of an eavesdropping opportunity as my chance to make myself known. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Is this a good time to ask you some questions? I need a drink. As if on cue, Sophie enters the room pushing a small drinks trolley. Hi, Sophie. Hang on, son. It's just gone noon. Crispian laughs harshly. So, might as well drink his liquor. He can't make me wait another 10 years for that. Oh, you're 25. Okay. Might as well see what else of his I can sample whilst I'm at it. He walks towards Sophie, who's waiting for him with a drink and a smile. I'm not dead yet. Well, I for one would be more than happy to answer your questions. Uncle. Yes, rather. Might make a good distraction from all this, I suppose. Already a difficult day, you know. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to James. I'm glad to have the chance to talk to you again. I've been meaning to apologize for earlier. I'd hate to leave a bad impression on such a lovely woman, particularly one who might attempt to arrest me. That's very kind of you, but there's no need. I've forgotten all about it. Really? No. I look at him levelly. Of course. Now, about those questions. Not much to tell, I'm afraid. I was in London at the time when my grandfather died. I would have been here if I'd known, of course. So, you'd say that his death was unexpected? Well, not unexpected as such, no. He was in his 90s, you know. Right. It's somewhat harder to make the case that a life has been cut cruelly short when he was approaching his first centennial. But that would also be awfully convenient for someone who saw that as quite long enough. That's all I know, I'm afraid. I'm not even sure how he died, other than that it was apparently peaceful. Across the room, a sudden burst of laughter draws my attention. Mr. Crispian, you're a scream. I haven't laughed like this in ages. Not the first time I've made a lady scream. My god, you are a fiancé. A fiancé. You're engaged. Ugh. From where he's waiting for me to speak to him, Mr. Haverly is observing the proceedings with a blank expression. He must be so disappointed in his son. James shakes his head. Crispian, he is incorrigible. That's one word for it. I hope you don't tar me with the same brush. So about your grandfather's death. Yes. What else would you like to know? I've heard from others that your grandfather was, how shall I put it, looking forward to his death. Planning to hire detectives, leaving letters to be opened in the event of his death. That sort of thing. Excuse me? You didn't know? No, that's the first I've heard of it. He never spoke of anything like this when we came down to see him. And how often was that? Perhaps he simply hadn't had the chance to... No, not possible. My sister and I came down at least every 2 weeks to keep him company. Oh, that's nice. He would have told us. But he didn't. Well, no. No, I suppose he didn't. Can you tell me about the will? I must admit, I overheard a little bit of your conversation as I came in. Of course, you are a detective after all. Though I must admit, I'm surprised I didn't notice you. You must be very good. I take a step back. Can I take it that you didn't know about the provisions of the will before today? Well, no. But I can't say most of it came as much of a surprise, either. Even the provisions regarding Crispian are exactly as I would have expected them to be, knowing Grandfather. He laughs. The sound somehow sad. Ah, the only thing that surprises me is that he didn't take the opportunity to tell us all to our faces. He did love to cause a scene. He laughs again. I wish I could have met him. Oh, he would have loved that. Beautiful women and interesting stories were two of his favorite things. He would have been talking about meeting a lovely lady detective right until the day he... well, you know. Why do you think that he didn't tell anyone about the provisions of the will whilst he was alive? I have no idea, honestly. Perhaps he didn't want Aunt Janet to convince him to change his mind. Not that that was likely. Nothing ever changed Grandfather's mind. Before, you said that most of the will didn't come as a surprise to you. Yes. Well, that implies that something did surprise you. What was it? Oh. Not sure I should. He looks over his shoulder to where Mr. Haverly is still waiting for me. He's watching Crispian and Sophie, who have progressed to giggling together in the corner. Oh my. I lower my voice. Was it about the Haverleys? Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Not really an unpleasant surprise, mind you. He lowers his tone to match mine and moves a little nearer. Keep it to yourself, please. But it was a bit of an event back when Aunt Janet chose to marry Uncle George. It was considered to be something of a faux pas, if you get my meaning, especially by her father. He didn't approve. It wasn't that he didn't approve of Uncle George. They got on well enough. It was more that his daughter wouldn't listen to him, you gather. Always used to say that if she couldn't trust him, he couldn't trust her. If anything, Uncle George has also always tried to get the two of them talking again. But I don't know if you've noticed, my Aunt Janet is not one of nature's talkers. Exactly. So I can't say it was ever that successful. And the surprise is that she was left such a large percentage of the estate. Not only that, but she was essentially left my mother's portion as well. Not what anyone would have expected. Oh. So would people have expected that portion to go to you? Did you expect it to go to you? His eyes widen and he holds his hand up in front of him. Oh, no. No. Huh. Well, yes. But I'm glad, really. I hardly need the money, and I'd imagine it means more to Aunt Janet symbolically than anything else. Can you tell me about... That's it. Thank you for your honesty, Mr. Ashbrook. Oh, please no. Call me James, if you will. Or if there's a pet name you'd like to call me, I'd be open to that as well. Why are you flirting? I call him... I kind of want to call him Muffin. If you insist, Muffin. That's a bit. I'm afraid that I really must question your uncle now. And with that, I walk over to Mr. Haverly, leaving Muffin staring after me. See, he was a nickname. But not really to the way that James would expect it. Would you mind if we take a seat? Little unsteady on my feet today, you see. Oh, of course. We take our seats on the reading chairs, and I glance at the nearest table where a stack of heavy books lie. Apparently, someone in this house has been reading up on estate law. I'd guess Crispian, but somehow I doubt his solution. First solution to a problem is to research it. Tell me about the night your father-in-law died. Oh, but I thought we'd already told you that. Not being a bit forgetful, are you, my girl? Please humor me. I wanted to hear it from you by yourself. His eyes light up. Oh, I see. Yes, hard to get a word in edgewise sometimes with my better half is about. Well, it was a Friday, you see. We usually come down on the weekend, so we were supposed to arrive the next day. And of course we did late that afternoon, but he had already passed on the previous night. Very sad. Yes, unfortunate timing. So he died during the night. Yes. Not a bad way to go, as I believe I said before, but still, better not to go at all, eh? He lets out a bleak chuckle. Yes, better not to go at all. And who discovered the body? Surely not the two of you. Why, his valet, of course. Odd man, that. New hire, you know. I've heard all sorts of odd things about him. Yes, we've met. So he was hired recently. How recently, exactly? Mr. Haverly scratches his head, brow furrowing. You know, I can't quite remember. Crispian? Crispian, when did your grandfather hire that new valet? What? I'm a trifle busy here. Yes, busy trying to convince Sophie to accept another drink. Charming. Oh, just answer the question, Crispian. You answer the question since you were so much closer to him. James sighs. 4 months or so, Uncle George. Good man, James. Come and have a drink. No, thank you.
Oh, please do, Master James. Here, allow me. Mr. Haverley turns back to me.
Yes, quite right. About 4 months. Quite a shock, too. Fired his old man with no word of warning. Hired that Miss Santhrope right after. Maybe they have a backstory. Mr. Graves and Nick. And he didn't say why. Not a word. Interesting. That ballet didn't strike me as having the impeccable social skills necessary for his position. Especially not ones that would allow him to be hired with such speed. Now, can you tell me about the will? So I gather your son is quite upset by the details of the will. Oh, it doesn't seem like that. Not at all, really. That's just Crispian, I'm afraid. Flames up fast and burns out quick, just like his father, that's right. Wait and see. He'll be right as rain come morning. I look over to where Crispian is angrily gesturing his drink, dangerously close to spilling over. Put it down. I'll put you down, you.
Mr. Crispian, please.
Right. You're saying that you don't feel like the contents of the will were surprising at all. So can I take it that there's no chance of family problems flaring up because of it? Good gracious, no. Purely pro forma is all. Something for everyone and everything in its place. That doesn't quite match up with what I heard from Muffin over there. Then again, I wouldn't put it past Mr. Haverley to be completely unaware of any tensions caused by his marriage. I was asked not to say anything, so I won't bring it up, but it is interesting. Despite my best efforts, Mr. Haverley has nothing more to share on the topic. It still takes me about 10 minutes to extricate myself from the conversation. One more thing. You said earlier that your father died from natural causes, correct? That's right. Certified by his general practitioner, you know, and I took a look at him as well, naturally. But during the will reading, the lawyer said that Mr. Graves had been certified as healthy only weeks before his death. Oh, no question there. He was sharp as a tack mentally. You see, it was his body that let him down in the end. Well, that's a little strange, don't you think? I don't follow, my girl. He was certified as being both in good mental and physical health. Ugh. We look at each other for a moment. Thank you both for indulging me. That is suspicious. I check my watch, pleasantly surprised to see that there's still a little bit time before dinner. As I pass the front window, the view catches my eye. Can I skip it? It's just snowing outside, okay. And then white doves will fly overhead as me and my honey drive away.
Oh, how delightfully romantic.
Via sighs deeply and one hand reaches up to touch her necklace.
Oh, it will be, but in all honesty, I'd marry that man standing in a field. Not that I'll ever tell him that. Very wise. Men don't need to know everything, do they? Sometimes a lady needs her secrets.
Oh, yes. The conversation trails off, so I step forward, prepared to fill the awkward silence. Admittedly, with nosy questions, but one can't have everything. Good evening, ladies. I hope you don't mind me joining you.
No. Come on in. The more the merrier, isn't that right?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I have a few questions to ask as well.
Even better, honey. I've been dying to be questioned by a real-life detective.
Ask away.
I would not have put it quite that way, but I agree.
I asked them about the will. Did you get a chance to talk to Crispian after the will reading?
No, he wasn't in a good mood when I caught up to him.
Better to leave him alone when he's like that. Gives him a chance to get himself together again. It must have come as quite a bit of a shock, I'll say. And what was Crispian expecting? Do you know? Via's mouth tightens. What exactly are you suggesting? Crispian's not greedy, if that's what you mean.
No, no, please do not upset yourself. Surely that is not what she meant. That is exactly what I meant. Of course not. I just wanted to know if he'd always been led to believe something different, since it was such a shock to him. Oh, why didn't you say so, darling? You gave me a right turn there. Had me thinking you were picking on my poor Crispian when he's already so poorly. She glances apologetically at Celia behind her. And not to speak ill of the dead, but that's exactly what happened. Crispian had heard from his grandfather that he'd be getting his bit, and maybe more. He and Crispian's mother didn't get on, you see, so there's hints that she might be out of it. No, grandfather would never disinherit Aunt Janet. Well, I can hardly argue with you about that now. But you can see why Crispian took it so hard. Your fiancé must have been quite upset when he heard that his grandfather had passed. Of course, honey. Found out the same day it happened. His parents rang Crispian's flat in the early afternoon and let us know. My Crispian was inconsolable. Could barely even breathe with the shock. My brother was the same. He must have found out right after the same time. Obviously, I wasn't in London. We drove down immediately, of course, to support Aunt Janet.
There's a short pause. They were there that same day?
Well, as I said, my honey was too shook up, couldn't even drive. My brother was as well, but he pushed through it. Family is the most important thing to him, you know. He'd do anything for us. Isn't that sweet? And your grandfather was such a lovely gentleman, too. Oh, sorry, not your grandfather, I mean.
Wow.
Now see here. I cut in before the metaphorical bloodshed can spill into the physical. So, you liked Mr. Graves, Fia? Oh yes, only met him once, of course. A few days before he passed, but he was a charmer. Yes, that is true.
Well, that was a surprising bout of hostilities. Still, something came out of it. I'm quite sure Fia said at the will reading that she never had the chance to meet Mr. Graves. I asked them about... Oh yeah, that's true. Fia and Crispian.
I heard you two discussing wedding plans on my way in. Oh, yes. I'm a bit of a dyed-in-the-wool romantic, I fear. I rather pestered poor Fia until I left her no choice. Oh, no, love. If anything, I'd been the one bending your ear. I'll take any excuse to talk about the happiest day of my life. Or at least, I hope it will be. You two seem very happy. Yes. If you don't mind, can I ask how long the two of you have been together? Just had our 3-month anniversary a few weeks ago. A whirlwind romance indeed. I did not realize it had been so short, although that does explain why we hadn't met before. Fia laughs, not seeming to take any offense. You could call it that. I like whirlwind romance better than what some other people have called it, including my brother. He doesn't approve. That is surprising. Crispian, I understand, seen as something of a catch. It goes unsaid that would be only true if someone in Fia's strata, to whom money might be expected to trump personality. Well, just as she is, there's nothing else of the upper crust about her. How did you meet him? I imagine it was also romantic. A pause, then again Fia laughs before leaning forward and lowering her voice. Well, as romantic as it could be when I was kissing another man at the time. No, that's an unlikely start to a romance. Satisfied with our response, Fia leans back. The life of an actress, my dears. There I was, kissing this absolute toad as part of my least favorite scene, and above his greasy head, I locked eyes with an absolutely divine man. Oh, how sweet. I tell you, the world stopped for me right there. And lucky, he felt the same, because there he was, large as life, waiting for me at my dressing room after the music stopped. That's right, Bunny, isn't it? I never got to play the heroine, but I still got the prince. That's so lovely. I wish I could find the same. No, a looker like you. You let me take you out when you were back in the city. I know half a dozen guys that would fall over themselves for you. Oh no, I couldn't. My brother would be horrified. Oh, he would be for certain. Mine is too. Isn't it wonderful? Don't think I'm forgetting about you, Miss Detective. I don't see a ring on that finger. Celia's eyes light up, perhaps relieved to not be the sole recipient of Fia's attention. Yes, do tell. Is there a man out there waiting to take you away from all this? Or are you on the market?
I'm married to justice. I'm waiting for the right. I don't want. Nah. Oh, I'm kind of married to justice.
Nice. I'm married to justice. Nice try, honey. Justice doesn't cut the mustard. Or take you out at night. Or tuck you in at night. Thea! I regret everything I asked them about. That's all. The dinner bell sounds as I finish asking my questions, and the three of us head over together. Dinner is as awkward as lunch.
Oh, excellent food again, Sophie. Not that that's any surprise. Send my compliments to the cook, will you?
Yes, Mr. Haverley. She'll be glad to hear from you. Really, George, must you? Today of all days.
Sorry, love. Mr. Thompson, I thought the two of you were planning to return to London tonight. English weather got the better of us, I'm afraid. I don't know if you've looked, but it's snowing a bit heavier now. A little too much for even young eyes to navigate in the dark, eh, Blake? As you say, sir. Well, it's lucky we have enough rooms here for the both of you. Otherwise, we'd have to bunk up. At that, he shoots me a meaningful wink. I'd be flattered if I wasn't the only woman in the room not related to him in some way.
Honestly, James.
Thank you, Celia.
Has anyone seen Crispian? I don't think he's eaten all day. He knows when dinner is. Not to worry, miss. He asked for a plate to be sent to his room. What? He asked you? Yes, miss?
Dinner breaks up shortly after that, but I linger to observe everyone leaving the room. Unlike this afternoon, everyone seems keen to retire directly to their rooms, perhaps sick of each other's company. Crispian's not here, and that's no mystery. But neither is Adrian, and I haven't seen him since the will reading. That is true. My first full day here, and I'm no further forward than when I arrived. The will reading didn't provide me with the insights that the late Mr. Graves apparently believed it would, barring the scene with Crispian, which seems nothing to find all out of character. No one seems to find all out of character. And I can't forget that Mr. Graves' death was officially declared as being from natural causes, even though just shortly before that, doctors had apparently given him a clean bill of health. Even after this modest contradiction, the only thing that really stands out to me so far is that letter. His family might have laughed off as an old man's eccentricity, but I'm not entirely convinced by that. I need to get into his room, and I know just who to speak to for the key. As I go up the stairs, I'm suddenly caught off guard by the sound of raised voices behind a door. I believe that's the servants' quarters. An absolute disgrace. Mumble, mumble. No, I won't. Made a mockery. As I draw nearer, the voices become clearer.
Would have never stood for this type of behavior. I don't want to hear another word about it, and not from you either. Tomorrow you're out! Out! There's a brief silence, and then the door handle starts to turn. I took several quick steps backward and turned to my right, facing the staircase, reaching towards the rail for verisimilitude. Miss Chantal. Mrs. Haverley, I'm glad I was able to run into you here. And why would that be? I was hoping I might be able to get the keys to your late father's room. Seeing her hesitation, I hastily added on to this. I'd like to be able to wrap up my investigation tomorrow so I won't inconvenience you any longer. Yes, I'll have Stevens give them to you in the morning. Thank you. Have a good night. She walks away in the direction of the library, and I take the opportunity to stealthily tiptoe to the door she came from and look through. No one is there, but I think I see a flash of something pale turning the corner. The valet? I don't see anyone in the hallway, and after a brief visit to the washroom, I head directly to my bedroom. After a day of mostly talking to people, or watching other people talk, I'm somehow more tired than I expected. I'd love the chance to take a purse snatcher right about now. Oh well, tomorrow is another day. Surely someone here will need tackling eventually. There's a tap at the door. Yes? Evening, miss. Good evening, Sophie. Anything I can do for you? That's my question, miss. Anything I can do for you before you go to sleep? This did not happen in the last time I played. Fetch another blanket, bring up some light snacks, fluff your pillow, some tea. No, Nothing, thank you. Although you could answer some questions for me. Sorry, miss. The new mistress, well, she isn't too keen on my chatting with guests. She glances at the door to the hallway. I'm on thin ice as it is, miss, but maybe if you can find me tomorrow. Somewhere more private. Thank you. I'll take you up on that. After the maid leaves, I get into bed and prepare to sleep. I can distantly hear the tap 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 of Sophie's shoes, followed by her rhythmic knocking on door after door, sometimes followed by the distant rumble of voices. For this grand of a place to have such thin walls. As I drift off, the sounds of her footsteps gently fades away into the distance, signifying the end of her rounds.
Day 2, A Rude Awakening. Oh, well, we're gonna have to leave it here. I will come back with another part. And again, we are on James's route, so things have slightly shifted. This has been interesting, though I'm not sure what exactly is going to happen. But yes, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already liked the video, please like it. If you would like to subscribe to see the next part and see me post other videos, a lot of other visual novels to be played from the Tome Jam this year, then please subscribe. I post generally Monday through Friday, so there's quite a bit of content if that is something you're interested in. But anyways, have a good rest of your day. I will see you next time. Bye!